I'm happiest in the saddle.
A fellow sportsman.
I am an FBI agent!
Great Scott!
What do you say we cut the chit-chat? A-hole!
Dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria!
Come with me if you want to live.
Hello, and welcome to Retro Ramble. I'm Charlie McGhee.
I'm George McGhee.
And this time we are obviously doing this remotely. George and I are both locked down.
As is everyone.
At the time of recording, you're all locked down. You're all in the same boat. So yeah, this time we are taking a look back on the 1992 action classic that is Under Siege with Seagal, our first visit to Mr. Steven Seagal.
Indeed. I think we've had a few requests for Mr. Seagal, at least for this film. I mean, he's got quite a career. You know,
oh my God, yeah.
Quite a career. I don't think you and I could, outside of those sort of cool late 80s, early 90s films, I don't think you or I could name him any of them, but he's still going, you know, bless him. God loves a trier.
Yeah, and I think this film was kind of, this both started his career, but kind of, it was the beginning of the end.
Peak. I think everyone can agree this is his peak.
We're going to cover what it was like to go back and revisit this films, to see what it was like to see a 1992 action film, Die Hard at Sea, would you have it? But for those who know what to expect, that's great. And for those who don't, here's George with a quick update on some general housekeeping.
We are two brothers going back looking at the films of our youth. So we are film lovers. We're podcast professionals, but we're not film professionals. So we're just doing this out of our love for the movies. We're going back through these films, going into detail on them. So there will be spoilers from the very off. There will be probably, elements of mild swearing. So be mindful if you have little people or children around when listening. And more than likely, there might be some bad impressions as well. But ultimately, we aim to entertain. We aim to give you some trivia about these films. And, I say it's a lighthearted look back at these films.
So with this being 92, I know you'd love it to be recorded on minidisc, but I'm going to say back in 92, we were still on CDs, maybe. We were moving from high quality tapes to CDs. So yeah, we'd be burning this maybe to listen on our enormous CD portable player later.
Well, I'm jumping the gun, but they make a big deal about things being on CDs in Under Siege 2, which is 3 years later. So this is really high tech for 92.
Okay. So we're in our time machine. It's 1992. It's Steven Seagal, brought to us from Andrew Davis. It's Under Siege. Enjoy the show.
Enjoy.
It was the final voyage of America's mightiest battleship.
What's on this helicopter?
This little sweetheart,
Miss July 89.
God, I love this business.
I love you.
The party was wild.
Love you to death.
They really knocked them dead. Imagine this arsenal of tactical nuclear weapons falling into the wrong hands. The Pentagon never did.
4 minutes ahead of schedule. Damn, I'm good.
Now, a team of terrorists have taken over.
Wake up the president.
But there's just one thing they didn't count on. The cook.
Are you like some special forces guy or something?
No, I'm just a cook.
Oh my God, we're gonna die.
This is not the work of a cook.
I want you to coordinate your efforts with us.
Yes, sir.
I see that you completely disobeyed my orders.
Roger that.
Ryback is an ex-SEAL.
Expert in martial arts. Explosives.
Stand back!
Weapons and tactics.
I also cook. The Nimitz is tracking 2 Tomahawks just launched from the Missouri.
Where are they headed?
Honolulu.
Happy trails.
Steven Seagal.
I know you, don't I?
Tommy Lee Jones.
Been a long time.
I'll see you in hell, sailor boy.
Under Siege.
So, George, 1992, Under Siege. I mean, obviously, very impressionable boy at the time. Myself, I was but 12 or 13. You would have discovered this a bit later, I guess.
No, I vaguely remember seeing this on video and being very excited. Mainly, I think, are we going to, talk about the elephant in the room, or the two elephants? We're going to talk about Erica Elenia. That's why this film got quite a bit of buzz around it, didn't it? As well as being a big Seagal film, it was the girl off Baywatch with the big knockers got him out.
Yeah, and it was very confusing for a 12 or 13-year-old boy who just discovered Baywatch and action films to then have them thrown together when you're a 12 or 13-year-old boy. Yeah, it was all very confusing.
It was a beautiful moment.
No, but it was like, oh yeah, it's Seagal, it's a diehard on a boat, and Erica Elenia gets her baps out. That was the word on the street.
I mean, I don't know if I'm right in thinking, but this was the first time that you or I had heard of Seagal when this film came out. I mean, obviously he'd had quite a few films, kind of lower
the
budget.
Nico films, Out to Kill.
There was
Hard
Nico.
To Kill. I think Hard to Kill was the one that was on TV the most.
I get them.
Not necessarily the best.
They all merged together. I think Is It Hard to Kill is the one with Kelly LeBrock in it.
Yeah, but it's all the same character. So it's Nico. It's like Out to Kill, Hard to Kill.
No, they're not all the same character.
Are they not?
They're not. They're just very similar films.
And they're him with the same haircut, the same look.
Yeah, the ponytail and vests.
Which he sacrificed because of the Navy standards.
He did for this film. He had to cut off. It wouldn't be realistic to have a ponytail in the Navy. But we're getting ahead of ourselves, Charlie. Getting ahead.
So how did we get this film, George? Who's responsible?
So, yeah, as you say, Seagal had done a few films, and I think he was on a contract of sorts with Warner Brothers. So he'd done, apart from Nico, lots of 3-word titles. So there was Above the Law, Out for Justice, and Hard to Kill, I think, were 3 films.
Was he in a film called Half Past Dead?
He was indeed. One of my favourite film titles. Steve, what time is it? It's Half Past Dead.
Who cut that? I mean, that's just, it's sort of like it's like a Simpsons joke.
It is.
You'd expect this. It's almost like what's Arnold Schwarzenegger's next film? That's what it sounds like. It's like a parody of a real film name.
Especially as the Americans don't really use that terminology. They don't use it's 2:30. They say it's
8:30 or 4:30.
Yeah, because I remember working with some Americans, and I was like, I'll meet you in the bar at 8:30. And they were like, what, you mean 4 o'clock? And I was like, no, 8:30. But anyway, so I think the studio were looking for a big project for Seagal. And the script had been written, believe it or not, by the same guy who wrote Pretty Woman. So a guy called J.F. Lawton wrote a script called Dreadnought. And originally it was a really expensive script that had multiple warships blowing up and stuff like that. So they scaled it down, and they were like, hang on, the studio thought this could be a project for Seagal. So they took it to him, and he was like, I'm not too sure about this. And he wanted to put some input into it. They got back Andrew Davis, who he'd worked with Seagal on Above the Law. And apparently Davis had a meeting with one of the producers, and his way of luring Davis back was like, Seagal's only in the movie for 41 minutes. And he was like, it was fine. We had a lot of fun making the movie. And Andrew Davis, after this, went straight on to do The Fugitive, which is probably his biggest film. So he's got
I'm keeping Tommy, the rest of you are out of here.
Yeah, pretty much. So it was always a project for Seagal, as far as I know. And there was some tweaks to the original script. They pared it down, but it was very much going to be a project for him. Throughout filming, it was known as Dreadnought. But surprise, surprise, the title tests awfully with audiences.
It's not 3 words.
Yeah, and that's it. Warner Brothers wanted to go with the classic 3-word title. So they came up with the title Last to Surrender. And even Seagal said that was a terrible title. Both him and the writer Lawton both said they hated the title and they fought to change it. And I think Seagal managed to convince them to change it to What We Know and Love, Under Siege.
2 words.
2 words. I know. He was, breaking convention there. So, as you know, the story is based on the USS Missouri, which is a real ship. And quite handily in the film, we get a nice bit of
George Bush.
real exposition at the start. And apparently this was Seagal's idea. There was this whole Pearl Harbor memorial in 1991. And Seagal was like, well, let's send a film crew and get footage of the boat and get footage of, President at the time, George Bush, talking about it. So that's all real. And obviously,
very clever.
The Missouri was, a key ship in the Japanese surrender of World War II. So
there was Pearl Harbor, and then the Missouri was the retaliation, and it was the end of the Second World War for the Americans. Exactly, well, it was the end of the Second World War, pretty much.
So it had been going, pretty much for 50 years, and amazingly, it was still in commission when Under Siege was in production. So whilst they've got the footage of it at the start, they used another warship for the actual filming, which was a retired battleship, the USS Alabama. But this is the fun part. So they used this. The USS Alabama was docked in Alabama, in Mobile Bay, apparently, but it was docked the whole time. So they had to create that illusion that it was at sea, and very cleverly, lots of camera angles. And I was looking out for it when watching the film again. They actually do quite a good job of doing it. But because it was in the bay, they had to basically create this massive backdrop on a barge behind the boat to block out all the city lights and stuff like that. So basically like a stage.
Good physical work.
Yeah. And obviously in today's work, they could CGI the shit out of it, essentially.
Just cut.
But I think they did a really good job of making it feel like there's a lot of stock footage, but all the action was when it was docked in the bay, sitting on the dock of the bay.
Do you want to talk about the cast?
Well, what a cast. What a cast. For this one, you've got two for the price of one in terms of hammy bad guys. You've got not only the great Gary Busey, who we've...
Crazy Busey, who we've waxed lyrical about on previous podcasts in Point Break. But you have Tommy Lee Jones as well. And I think Tommy Lee Jones, this was a bit of a Lee Jones-assance for him, because Tommy Lee Jones had been around for acting for about 20 years, and he'd been in sort of, B movies. I've seen the posters.
Mainly B movies. But this was, I think, the film that started putting him onto that sort of proper rise, because, as we've briefly mentioned, so he did this. And then the following film he did was The Fugitive with director Andrew Davis, which got Tommy Lee Jones the Oscar win. And then from then on, he just shot, Men in Black, basically all the massive, he became a huge household name, one of the biggest, stars or, most sort of respected actors in Hollywood.
And Old Country for Old Men. I mean, he pops up
No Country for Old Men, and
what's he been in recently with the beard? I can't remember.
He was in Lincoln. He was in. I'm trying to think what he's been in. I mean, obviously he's still working. He's still getting, still doing loads of stuff.
I loved him in this.
Oh no, he's fantastic, and he, it's funny when you think about this is. I would argue this is him hamming it up in a good way. And him in Batman Forever is hamming it up in a bad way.
Yeah, that's agreed.
Because he's fantastic in this. He's
he's subtle.
As soon as he's on the screen, you're hooked to him. He is basically, he grabs the attention, and he's so zany, he's so nuts, and you can almost see. And it'll be interesting to get the lowdown. It wasn't much competition between him and Busey, because it's almost like they are trying to outdo each other.
I've written that down, just the Busey Bants with TLJ, as I was calling him in my notes, Tommy Lee Jones.
No, I did the exact same thing. It's too many words to write.
No, but I mean, it really adds something to the film. And I don't know about you, but obviously, as I said, I watched this as a very young, teenager. And since now going back, it means so much to me now, the fact that I don't think I got how multi-layered Tommy Lee Jones' backstory was. The fact that he was a former agent and that because he was obviously a bit nuts, the CIA tried to kill him, and this was a retaliation for that. I don't think I got all that the first time. So that added an extra layer to my comprehension, and it's something else I find that throughout the amount of respect he pays Seagal when he finds out it's a SEAL, the way they all react, it's a real kind of, I guess blowing the trumpet of the US Navy. But I don't know, there was something good about that, whereas in Die Hard, Rickman just sees McClane as a nuisance. He completely underestimates him.
A fly in the ointment.
You know what I'm talking about.
I know. Yeah, no, it's an interesting take because, I'm the same. I don't think I got those layers as you were talking about. But again, I think because they do sort of talk about it, the exposition's done quite cleverly in terms of, I think they decide to get rid of him because he knew too much, or like it was on a mission that went wrong. And not that he was nuts, but he's playing up the angle that he's nuts when he's on the phone to them. So when he's first doing the demands, he's like, I'm a crazy, he's saying, he's completely lost it. But then by the end of the film, he's like, yeah, he has totally lost it.
That's what I mean. I felt after watching this film that it was a very much is Hamlet really mad thing going on throughout this. And that's not me going too nuts with it. It's like he, in the film, as you say, he's pretending to be crazy. Then he's acting crazy. And then at the end, you're like, was he actually maybe it was the fact that the CIA tried to whack him, get him whacked, that set him off. And this is what happens when one of their, as you see happens in them saying many other films, this was your monster, you've lost control of it, sort of thing. But I think he's brilliant in this. When he's play acting as the rocker guy, and he does that very well, but just as a double agent would. But then when he totally comes out of his shell, he's authoritative, he's scary, he's terrifying, but he's also very subtle.
Yeah. I love the fact that they make no effort to try and cover up that Busey is a traitor in the ranks. It's just clearly like, he's such a shit. He's clearly evil.
I just love that scene because obviously, at this point, we should probably mention how Seagal is introduced, just the most popular chef that you'll ever meet. And I'm sorry, but I've worked in like 3 or 4 different bar or restaurant, and I'm sure you have too. And I think chefs have a certain reputation, and it's not normally that they get on with everyone.
Yes, I was thinking that very much so. Like, everyone's like, hey, Casey, come on, yeah.
He's the coolest guy ever. It's like you do what the fucking chef tells you, and you get your Oscar.
Where's my fucking bouillabaisse?
Yeah, Gordon Ramsay. It's not like, hey, man. And they've got their own little rapper who comes in and does a dance. Cue ball. Is it cue ball?
Cue ball, yeah.
I'm fly.
I mean, you were talking about casting before. I mean, and obviously you've got Jones, you've got Busey, you've got Seagal, but there's so many I've put in my notes. It's that guy. So you've got
the Mexican guy who's in The Rock. I want to say is one of his mates.
And when you need a Mexican gangster, he crops up in most films as well.
Yeah.
You've got the ginger dude from 24 and Transformers.
I've got that literally written in my notes. Literally in my notes.
Who's always
the same thing.
Who's always a figure of authority, military mainly. And you've got...
He's also been in that Bloodline. He was the bad guy in the first series of Bloodline.
He was, yes, correct. I've never finished that series because it's so bloody slow.
It's so bloody slow. It's great. And then at the end, it's like Mr. Robot. They have a second season and they don't know what to do because they went all in.
We panicked. We panicked.
Shot our load. We shot the entire thing. Yeah.
You've also got one of my favorite dudes, the white-haired dude from every military film ever made.
Got that written down from Mission Impossible.
Barnes. So yeah,
we love him.
We love him. But he's got an amazing career. Like
he was in the army as well.
Well, that's it. He started off as a military advisor. So he was in the army. He was in Vietnam. but he started off as a military advisor for Oliver Stone for Platoon. So he put the whole cast through boot camp for Platoon, and then he has a small part in Platoon. But he's cropped in loads of films. He's written books. He's directed films. He's still starring in stuff. So he's been in loads of films that, you would have seen him in everything.
So many times.
He's in Saving Private Ryan, Mission Impossible. He's in Starship Troopers. Again, most of the cases playing a military figure, but he's brilliant at it.
Love him.
SEAL Team 5 will launch from Nimitz aboard a CH-53 Echo with an Apache gunship in support. At the objective area, the Apache will take out Missouri's radar and her electronic warfare systems. Then SEAL Team 5 will board and retake the vessel.
And I do like, is it Admiral Baines or Admiral Barnes? I think he's...
the way that Admiral Barnes, the guy, what I've written down is like, it's the American answer to M from James Bond. He's like that sort of... Doesn't he look like an M? He looks like
very much so.
His look and feel, and I think the banter's good. And as I say, Seagal is a bit of a smartass throughout this, but he does all the choreography brilliantly. He's in his prime, even though he seems to be not as thin as he is in his earlier films.
A lot of loose vests. A lot of loose clothing. Maybe it's the chef's whites, but it's those baggy vests.
No, it's a character. He's just playing a chef. You wanted to make it believable. It's very well put together.
Yeah, no, it is quite interesting, the fact that you see very little of Seagal. I mean, following that sort of kitchen interlude where appears to be the most popular man on the ship, when they pretty much put him in the brig, it's all the setup. It's the party, it's Busey, it's Lee Jones.
Yeah.
And he doesn't really get unleashed for a while.
Much.
It doesn't say a lot. I don't know if it was you or the fact that I've got, if it was the same for you, but I've just got a new telly and I found some of the dialogue was inaudible. I don't know if
I found that as well, because obviously,
let's be honest,
through YouTube on my PlayStation. But I was going to say,
let's be honest, Seagal isn't the most, doesn't have the clearest diction. I mean, I have put in my notes that he's delivering some of his lines like he's half asleep.
Yeah.
and you can see Eric Alenia's looking at him going, what?
I only know what you're saying because I've got it written down in my lines too, but I mean, come on.
Just a lowly cook.
I loved some of how close it's trying to be Die Hard. It even has the geek with the computer cliche, Theo wannabe. And the thing I kind of forgot about, but then it's kind of what made Under Siege, was I've put the A-Team / MacGyver type death traps. Lots of homemade bombs. When there's lots of bombs available, but he's making different bombs.
The grenades behind the door. I love the bomb that's in the microwave. Now that I know, paint cleaner, some foil cloth, put it in a mug, put it in the microwave, and time it just to go off when the terrorists have finally caught up.
There's the whole thing where he's cooking the nuke warhead and he's draining that.
Oh yeah, there's lots of taking grenades apart and taking a nuclear weapon apart. It's like, why does he keep dismantling explosives to make more explosives?
Because he's a chef.
Because he can.
He can't stop tinkering. He can't stop tinkering. But yeah, obviously we're trying.
Poor Erica. The camera loves her just a bit too much. It's just like.
There is a part where she gets off the chopper, and the camera does just literally pivot down to her ass, and you getting this, guys? Yeah, you getting this.
But I put that down to, in their defense, they were just like, "Hey, Navy sailor bands."
They haven't seen any skirt in months.
And that's what sailors are like. They get really, really horny or physical.
I noticed. There's some stuff that's dated quite badly, like. Is it Busey that says to Ryback, "You punch like a fag"?
I just love Crazy Busey. He's doing what he does best. I mean, from the second he's on the screen, he is villain up to the mast, chewing off the scenery. I mean,
I haven't managed to find a proper sort of documentation of this, but I do find this easy to believe that apparently Busey and drag was Busey's idea. It wasn't in the script originally.
That kind of adds up for me. Yeah. No, you don't really need to. Oh no, I'm doing it in drag.
I've got my own costume.
He's amazing in everything he's in. It's just like more Gary Busey, please.
Yeah, I mean, I would say this is one of his best roles. I mean, as we talked about, obviously we talked about.
He was still quite unknown.
And we talked about him in Lethal Weapon, didn't we?
Lethal Weapon. Lethal Weapon was the first time, and I think I discovered him after I discovered him in films like this.
And I think that's it. Like Lethal Weapon, kind of, as we touched on, kind of gave him a bit of a career resurgence, but also paved the way for him just becoming a bit of a rent-a-bad guy. And that's why, I think we both love his performance in Point Break so much, because out of all his other roles, he's a good guy for once. But I think...
And very lovable.
Obviously, Mr. Joshua is the sort of the strong, silent type, pretty much. I just love how venomous Commander Krill is. He's just like, let me get rid of him. Leave it to me.
I think if I ever get a dog, I'm going to call it either Commander Krill?
Commander Krill or Mr. Joshua.
I think Mr. Joshua would be the best name ever for a dog.
Definitely, because
Mr. Joshua.
Especially when you get angry and you're shouting it across a park. Mr. Joshua!
One actor who obviously there's only so much screen space, but Seagal, as I said, is giving it to us with his approach, his bands. But it's more the performance. He's a great performer.
Akido.
That's it. Yeah, the martial arts is done brilliantly. His weapon proficiency, all of that. You also see him throughout the film get a few knocks and grazes. He's not immortal. But one actor who I feel who's introduced early on, he's one of the main top henchmen, who's not really used enough, is our friend from Con Air, Meany Colm. Colm Meaney.
Oh, Colm Meaney.
Totally underused, considering, but I guess there's not enough screen, because he's so menacing, Colm Meaney. I suppose he's quite young in this. This is his...
Well, no, I mean, that's what Colm Meaney specialises in. He's very much a character actor through and through. He's rarely a lead, but whenever he turns up, he's one of those, those people that we always champion, that whenever he turns up in a film, you're like, yes, it's that guy. He's
Alpha
great.
Papa recently. It was just like
just like Pat.
It was just brilliant. He just from the off, and so I think I was watching. It was like, oh look, it's Meany Colm, and he's kind of just a typical henchman. It's just, but I suppose that's what this was. It was like you have a main villain, you have a main hero, and there's obviously the brass or the HQ in the middle, and that's it. You can't have big actors everywhere.
Well, no, I think they do, a good job, and it's something, again, we're repeating ourselves, but the 90s and 80s did really well. They put really interesting actors in very small roles, and they made it interesting, and these same guys that are popping up again and again throughout these films. And I suppose that adds to the nostalgia of, oh, it's that guy, it's him again.
There's the guy who's one of the first not the guy who does the big guns, but he's he was in Demolition Man, and I mentioned at the time that he's also still in Bosch.
Ace Ventura.
Oh, right, yeah, who's the big guy who talks like that. It's like, he really, I say, we look at these films in the 90s, and it just seems to be now that you have sort of tentpole actors in films and then TV actors, whereas back then, maybe I'm reading it wrong, but I just see it as a time where there was a lot of actors who weren't on TV. They were just in supporting roles. Yeah. That's all they did, Yeah. And now they'd go from movie to movie, and they didn't do TV. The TV acting was looked at differently during the 90s. You were either a movie star, and if you were on TV, you were moonlighting at best if you were a big star. It wasn't they didn't associate like it is today.
There's some great 90s exposition cliches. Your favorite, pulled his file.
Pulled his jacket.
No, but the fact is, in this, there's moments where both the villains and the guys in the war room both pull Casey Ryback's file. So you're getting different bits of background from the villains. It's just like...
Ryback is an ex-SEAL.
Goddamn cook's a SEAL?
Shut up and listen. Expert in martial arts. Explosives, weapons and tactics. Silver Star, Navy Cross. Purple Heart with cluster. And security clearance revoked after Panama. That means he couldn't hold any rating except that of a yeoman or a cook.
Ryback? Casey Ryback?
Chief Ryback? That guy, I wish we had him here today. And it's like, well, maybe we do. He's on the phone now.
And I think that's something, before I forget, drinking game. Every time the word Ryback is said, you have to have a drink, because you will be shitted by the end of this.
Well, listen, I'd obviously had a few glasses of my favorite red when I watched this film, and what all I was thinking about at this scene is you could do such a brilliant parody of that. Well, it's like, so sorry, what's happened? It's like, well, SEAL Team 5 are going to fly in.
They're the best guys on the job. They've
been downed, but with Ryback's on the phone. Imagine if you're in the Situation Room, someone will pretend goes, guys, this is just like Die Hard. Because, a few years had passed, but you can imagine in a parody film somewhere, because it does play out. But yeah, you have all of that. Wouldn't it be great? And yes, he calls in, and he's one of ours, and he's a SEAL, and there's a lot of, I was like, America, fuck yeah.
I mean,
there's a lot of that.
I was a little bit disappointed that on the SEAL Team 5 wasn't led by Michael Biehn, but I suppose we can't have.
Maybe he was, but they got blown up.
Were all dead.
They couldn't afford it. But yeah, if anybody was going to play that role, it would be Michael Biehn. This is a live fire exercise.
We also have the crooked CIA guy in the war room. How do we know he's crooked, Charlie?
Smokes.
He's smoking. He's the only, and he smokes a lot.
Inside, God, love it in the 90s when you could smoke inside, didn't you? Horrible.
That's one thing that dates it. The other thing that dates it that I noticed.
I got the
power. That's never going to date that song. That's the boom boxes. No, it's the fact in the war room they're getting all the updates on printed bits of paper in a file. It's just like, Admiral, we've just heard this. It's like, hang on, if you're getting instant updates, it's like, why are you printing it onto paper, putting it in a file, and then running it? Someone's like, obviously in today's thing, it would just be notifications popping up. But that was the thing. It's just like urgent news, but I've just printed it off for you.
We're out of printing. We were meant to print this out earlier. No, I do like the fact you got the Situation Room and you got that. And, I know you've mentioned the exposition that goes on. I think the one thing, and you notice this obviously when you start the film and at the end, it's how short it is. It's brilliantly paced.
Yeah.
1 hour 42. It's like so economic.
Well, the film was, it was good enough because Harrison Ford was sitting on the fence about doing The Fugitive, and he saw a rough cut of this, and he's like, okay, yeah, this film's pretty good. I'll sign up to do The Fugitive. And it is, it's as you say, it's pacey, and out of the, the Die Hard. Yeah, the Die Hard clones. And I think we talked about this in our Speed episode. There's so many rip-offs of that formula, but this and Speed are definitely up there with the best.
Yeah, and as we said before, in terms of Seagal, we do love him, and we especially love him in this. It was kind of the peak, and he then went on to make a number of other films, and I think he struggled to... This was not so much lightning in a bottle, but it's high quality film. It's like, it looks like it's just an actioner, but it's a great military film in some ways, but it's a good take on the Die Hard thing, but it's done very well. It's not a rush job. It's not a cash grab.
What are you trying to say? Like every other, yes, pretty much every other Seagal film. I think he has a film coming out every month.
I'm not saying that.
He has a film coming out every month these days, I'm sure. But apparently, I think even as recent as maybe 2014, he was still threatening Under Siege 3.
I don't think the world's ready for that. Give it a bit more time.
And would you know, because isn't he big friends with Vladimir Putin?
Yeah, isn't he hot? Yeah, he's like talked about moving to Russia.
I think he lives in Russia now. And his pitch for Under Siege 3 was Russian and American forces working together for a greater good or something. Sounds awful.
He's a man of many talents. They used to say, or I think he used to say, he was the most decorated martial artist in Hollywood.
It's just a shame he runs like a fat
Or in the world. Even in this, he runs like a fat old lady.
He does. There's a bit where he's running towards the helicopter for that iconic moment. And it is a bit of a Roger Moore run. He runs pretty much from like the knees down. It's a bit of a trot. There's no urgency.
But no, I think the plot kind of holds together. As I say, we go back to seeing the great banter between Busey and Tommy Lee Jones. And then obviously the plot jumps through hoops. Yes, it's a bit inconceivable or it's a bit convenient, but no more so than any other film of this genre. And yeah, as I said, one of the things I like is how they immediately show respect. It's like, oh God, he's a SEAL. Oh no.
There's a few inconsistencies. Like, it makes no sense that why do they bring Erica Elenia on the boat at all? You know, if she's just like going to be a hindrance, why do they bother bringing her as part of the band and the setup and stuff like that? And they completely forget about her as well. They're just like, oh yeah, she's fine. She's somewhere. But the other thing that I noticed watching it this time round is when obviously everyone's saying Ryback. Oh yeah, it's Ryback. He's just a chef. And Tommy Lee Jones is like, is this guy going to be a problem? Oh no, absolutely not. And then it's like, oh no, he turns out he's an ex-SEAL.
He's a badass.
And then at the end, like Tommy Lee Jones is like, oh well, I've never heard of him. But then when they go to face off against each other,
I know you.
I know you. And it's like, I know you. And it's sort of like, we're the same. And it's just like, oh God, this is so cliche. It's like, you didn't know each other before. But for the fight, they do know each other.
Yeah, I know who you are. Don't know what Seagal's saying with that, but he's just squinting at the camera.
So yeah, I mean, I think it was. I hadn't seen it for a few years. I think it.
I don't know when the last time I saw it. I loved it though. Going back to it,
I enjoyed it. I mean, maybe I hadn't had as much red wine as you had, but
just a bottle every few hours.
I did enjoy it. The best Seagal movie that's been done, but that's really not.
Have you seen Exit Wounds? Have you seen
The Glimmer Man?
Have you really given those films the time that they deserve?
That is true. I am being very assumptive because I haven't seen any of his straight to video films. I think I've seen it. I think one of the last films he was in, and again, one of the most highly reviewed films he's been in recently he's the bad guy in Machete.
Oh, right, yeah, because I saw that pop up when I was doing a bit of research on this. It's his highest grossing film apart from Machete.
Which I can't remember. I think I watched pretty drunk and was still like, meh. It's like Machete did start off as a 2-minute fake joke trailer and stretched to 90 minutes. He was the bad guy in the first Desperado. It's essentially that guy, isn't it? Yeah, essentially, it's a bit like that. He's the evil kingpin type bloke. Shall we move on to Coulda Woulda Shoulda?
Go for it.
Your scientists were so preoccupied with whether or not they could that they didn't stop to think if they should.
So, Coulda Woulda Shoulda, in this, I say it was always a project for Seagal, but in terms of alternative casting for Jordan Tate, the stripper that turns into the ally of Katie Ryback, apparently none other than Pamela Anderson was offered the role, but she claims that Seagal was insisting she got nude for the audition and she refused to. So that's her word. Against Seagal's, but yeah, she didn't think it was appropriate. So yeah, she almost got the role. Another Baywatch, obviously castee. I'm sure I read somewhere there was some other that were people approached for villains, but I don't seem to have them to hand.
Okay, so that was Coulda Woulda Shoulda. People
a very brisk Coulda Woulda Shoulda.
Okay, what are we doing this time for special features? Are we going to? Because I mean, I think overall we can say it's still a good movie. It's enjoyable to go back. It's a high quality derivative of Die Hard, but it's a good one.
Should we go into some dark territory and talk about Unsiege 2 Dark Territory?
Please do, because you have rewatched this recently, haven't you?
Well, I mean, it's on Amazon Prime at the minute. I noticed it was on Amazon Prime, and I watched about half of it last night. So I'll be honest. But interestingly, doing some research on this, so the 90s action sequels, they seem to have this trend of starting off as an original script and then to it being sort of retconned or retrofitted into a sequel. So Die Hard 2 was an adaptation of a novel called, like, completely unconnected to Die Hard. Die Hard 3 did the same thing. It started off as a script called Simon Says, and they turned that in. And I think at one point it was all...
How Says spelt?
Not in the same way as that Dennis Rodman film Says, S-E-Z.
Which George bought for me on DVD, I think, twice.
At least once. It's a great film. Dennis Rodman, what happened to his career? But yeah, so there was this trend of film starting off and then being turned into something else. So I think the script for that became Speed 2 was at some point going to be a Die Hard script. Thankfully, it didn't happen, and we got, as I say, Simon Says turned into Die Hard with a Vengeance. But there was original script written by or co-written by Matt Reeves, who would go on to direct Cloverfield, Let Me In, The Planet of the Apes, the last two Planet of the Apes films, and is currently working on the new Batman film. He co-wrote a script called Dark Territory, which was bought by Warner Brothers and turned into just change it into an Under Siege film. So yeah, I watched it, half of it last night, and I haven't watched it in years. There's a few things that come to mind. It's got some great character actors in it. It's got all of those, it's that guy. So it's got the guy, I think he's called in real life, Peter Green, who's most famously Zed from Pulp Fiction, the man with the gimp. And he's also the main bad guy in The Mask.
Yeah.
And what else is he in? He's in a few 90s films. Who else? I was telling you last night, it had the guy who he's in loads of films, but he's the traitorous guy.
Oh, in Breaking Bad? No.
Yes, it's got Mike from Breaking Bad. He's in it, in a tiny role. It's got the guy from License to Kill, the old buddy, the guy that Sanchez bribes.
Yeah.
Who, as you described, the guy that looks a bit like Stamper from Tomorrow Never Dies.
Yeah. Stamper.
And it's also got Katherine Heigl, who's in, what's it called?
Knocked Up.
So yeah, it's got like lots of random people in. It seems like you can, now knowing it started off as a different film, you can totally tell because it spends so much time setting up the plot, which is about very much a Bond plot. And it came out, I think, the same year as Goldeneye, about a satellite that can strike from space and blow up stuff. And the CGI on the satellite is terrible. And they really spend a lot of time on it.
Look at this. We spent so much money on this.
Whereas Goldeneye, as we touched, great model work.
It's minimal, it's minimal CGI.
But yeah, they spend so much time setting up the satellite, the background. Oh, it's also got our favorite man, Kurtwood Smith. Clarence Boddicker. He's one of the military guys in it, as well as bringing back Admiral Bates and our white-haired man Dale Dye. So, yes, I didn't get halfway through. I didn't even get to the part where Seagal started making homemade bombs again. But this time, probably more apt because he's not on a military carrier full of weapons. But yeah, it's nowhere near as good or as fun as the original. It is very much a sort of meh film. But I found myself, I was surprised at how long I was watching it for.
Well, I mean, I'm no completist, but I mean, I haven't got many Seagal films. I tell you what I have got. Do you know what Steven Seagal has been doing for almost 20 years while he was acting?
Now, didn't I buy this for you? You are bringing it into shop. I bought that for you.
Yes, you did. This is Steven Seagal, Lawman, the complete season 1. Was there a season 2? I'm not sure.
Because he is a real life sheriff or deputy sheriff. Is that right?
Let me read this out to you.
Read the blurb.
So, an expert martial artist with a 7th-degree black belt in Akido. He ranks among the film industry's greatest action stars. But Steven Seagal isn't just an action hero. For almost 20 years, he has been working as a fully commissioned deputy sheriff in Jefferson Parish, Louisiana. So, in addition to going out on patrol, he's an expert marksman, and he works with the SWAT teams and instructs their officers on firearms and hand-to-hand combat.
Well, Charlie, let's not forget this same man, this most highly decorated martial artist of all time. He's also has a jazz band. I think he's at Thunderhook or something. He also has, or did have, his own energy drink for a while. So he's a man of many talents, and he's got
his own sauce.
He probably already can cook as well.
Yeah, no, I was saying he's got his own sources like Paul Newman. He's like got many different things. He's almost, I'm not saying he's like Tiger King guy. He's got, his own show, but it's almost like that. He's a big brand, is the Seagal. And obviously he was producing back in 92. He produced Under Siege.
Well, he produced this. He did some tweaks to the script, but then he would go on to do his magnum opus, which was on Deadly Ground, another 3-week
That's
title.
the one in Alaska. That's the one in Alaska.
With Michael Caine as the bad guy. And
I don't think I've seen that for a long time.
It's terrible. And he's got he's called something like he's an
Indian chief?
Indian shaman.
Ninja.
Also a CIA guy as well. He's called Forrest Taft in that, because I remember I used to, on my sign-in sheet when I used to work in a call center, I used to just go through Seagal's character names, and they were all ridiculous. But Forrest Taft was the best one.
Casey Ryback's a good name.
Casey Ryback, Gino Felino, Mason Storm. Mason Storm is, I think, out for justice, but that's a good one. Mason Storm. The type of name you get in a film like that.
Brilliant.
But yes, On Deadly Ground it's got quite a strong environmental message that I think the studio mandated that Seagal had to cut down, because I think the last 10 minutes is him just preaching to the camera. But yeah, I don't think we're going to cover that, but there's always that if we need it.
I'd forgotten, or maybe it was an edited version when I originally saw Under Siege, but I remember in the knife fight, the monkey knife fight. Is it in the submarine? Is it in the battleship? I can't remember. No, it's in the battleship. I remember the old thumb the eye trick.
Yeah.
But maybe it was edited. I can't remember the throat rip.
The classic Patrick Swayze throat.
Patrick Swayze Roadhouse. I used to fuck guys like you in prison. Yeah, that sort of thing.
I think we probably got the edited version in the UK. I think I did read somewhere that the UK version was originally heavily edited, but the digital version, they've put it back in with the throat ripping and knife in the head, as well as thumb in the eye and knife in the clearly a dummy's head.
Yeah, no, but I think they had both the thumb in the eye and the knife in the head, but the throat rip wasn't in the original version. But I mean, there's still two pretty violent images, but I think all three together, it's a bit much.
And there's also the fight, which is a very good fight, probably one of the best fights, I'd say, in the workshop room where he chucks the guy through the saw.
Yeah. I was like, brutal. Absolutely brutal fight, but that's my favorite scene in terms of choreography. That's and you got to hand it to him. Yeah, you got to hand it to Seagal. He does know how to make it look very, very impressive.
Well, I think that was it. It was a different change of pace for action fans, because you obviously had Van Damme with all his flying kicks and stuff like that. And to see that up close, close contact, it was a different style of fighting, I suppose, that we weren't used to.
Yeah, because it was like we obviously saw...
and we tried practicing it and you just end up just slapping yourselves like very fast.
Yeah, it's like, is that what's going on? Yeah, but if we think of more recently, The Raid, that took martial art films to another level. It was like, we weren't familiar with that sort of, is it Singapore they're from?
Indonesia.
That Indonesian way of fighting, which is very fluid like this. But it's impressive to watch.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if we've mentioned it, but Seagal started his Hollywood career as a stunt coordinator teaching Sean Connery on Never Say Never Again. He was the stunt coordinator, and broke Sean Connery's wrist.
Nice.
You see, Sean, you just do it like this. What am I going to do about my golf?
You would not have liked that. I think as we said, this is a good film. He didn't go on to, I don't know, I think what's interesting, we were talking about how at this time there were film ideas that were being reverse engineered into sequels. And I guess it kind of, if we look at the world that Hollywood's in right now, I mean, you and I joke, or we accuse them frequently as a industry that seems to have run out of ideas, or they are risk averse in terms of moving away from established brand franchises. And what it seems to be happening in the 90s here is that there were actually lots of ideas. There were so many ideas that they were but there was already this fear of got to invest in a franchise. It's like, that's a great movie idea, but we've got to turn this one into a franchise. So we're turning it into a sequel.
Yeah.
Very much the business end.
So what you're saying is that we should expect a reboot starring John Cena any day now? Any day,
any minute now. It'll just be John Cena running about his living room because he's on lockdown.
That's true.
What's going to happen? Yeah, I mean, obviously, we're going to see stuff getting released early for streaming services, but it can be a bit... I'm not going to see any... I mean, I'm glad I've got my copy of Steven Seagal Lawman.
Exactly. Go back to the classic.
That's physical media. That's physical media, baby.
Exactly.
Yeah. So is there anything else we need to cover on Under Siege? I think I've said everything I wanted to say.
I think we've said this, in terms of, I think it's
still fans.
I think it's safe to say, though, you and I have a lot more love for the other action stars out there. Obviously, we've covered a lot of Arnie. We've done double JCVD, and we may do more JCVD in future, because I think there is a bit more charm, a bit more fun with those performances. Whereas, yes, I say Seagal isn't the best leading man. He mumbles his lines. He's a talented performer. And I think that's why Under Siege is that perfect sort of lightning in a bottle. Works very well, and they haven't really captured it since then. I mean, obviously one of the higher points is of the better films he was in, Executive Decision. Spoiler alert, the one where he gets killed off very quickly. But that was,
14 minutes in.
Yeah.
14 minutes, it was like, what?
He's basically SEAL Team 5. Look at what you've become. So yeah, I know. I think that's all to say. It's it's a fun little film. Obviously, it's no Die Hard, but when Die Hard is one of the best action films ever made, it's hard to be up there. But yeah, worth a revisit.
Yeah, a solid action film. Right. Well, do we know what we're going to be coming back with in our next episode?
There's a few irons in the fire. I was going to suggest Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles because it's 30 years old.
Yes, and should we do TMNT2 as well?
Should we do the rap? I thought you were going to say.
Should we do Ninja rap?
No.
If we're going to do Turtles, I can't do Turtles without doing...
you mean the Partners in Crime?
The Vanilla Ice. Ice one.
No, Charlie, let's not forget what you had on the vinyl single, The Partners in Crime spelled CRYME,
Heroes in a half shell, they're on a mission.
It's all coming back to you now.
They stayed at home instead of fighting these ninja masters with moves like lightning. No, I don't know. I don't know
what you're talking about. But we'll also, we may as well always chuck in ninja rap, Vanilla Ice starring The secret of the use.
We've got to do both. I never saw that third one, but yeah, let's do Turtles.
More family friendly.
Like it. Okay, well, this has been a look back at Under Siege from 1992. I've been Charlie McGhee.
I've been George McGhee.
And we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.